You're listening to a Mamamia podcast.
Mamamia acknowledges the traditional owners of land and waters that this podcast is recorded on. Hello, and welcome to Mamamia Out Loud, what women are actually talking about on Monday, the 27th of May. I'm Holly Wainwright.
I'm Mia Freedman.
And I'm Jessie Stevens.
And on today's show, Lizzo is that bitch who decided to take the high road when it came to a South Park skit. Was it the right call? Also, the very creepiest thing about you is likely decided by when you were born. And what is considered middle class in 2024, and can an A-list star be it? But first, Jessie Stevens.
Before we cover what happened last week in Australia, I just wanted to give listeners a little warning. If it's too much to hear today about the deaths of Australians at the hands of men, then skip forward a few minutes and we'll meet you there. The news cycle is relentless and we get it. Now, Sherelle Moody, who is a femicide researcher, wrote over the weekend that for as long as men have been committing violence against women, women have been offering shelter, safety and support to other women escaping that violence. 59-year-old Jennifer Patelchik was helping to keep a friend safe from a former partner when she was killed on Friday. The same man also killed her 18-year-old daughter Gretel inside their home in Floreat, Western Australia. Also last week, the body of 2-year-old Rowan was found after he was killed by his father, James Harrison, who then ended his own life. Rowan's mother, Dr. Sophie Room, had an apprehended violence order out against her former partner, but despite that, he was still allowed unsupervised visits with his son. As Professor Meyer told Mamamia, risk to mothers equals risk to children. And the fact that a mother can have an AVO out against a former partner, and yet they still have the right to see their children, appears, at least to us, to be a real flaw in the system. The loss of these lives this week are incredibly distressing, and our thoughts are with the families and communities directly impacted by men's violence.
Mamamia has chosen to partner with Rise Up this year. You've heard us talk about it probably over the last few months. They are our charity partner because they support victims of domestic violence to have a new beginning and to leave situations that are unsafe. So what can you do? You can make a donation for as little as $2 a week that goes directly to Rise Up to help women and their children start again. The money goes directly to sourcing key household items like furnishings and clothes and turning emergency accommodation into a home, things like toys, things like food in the cupboards. This has been shown to be one of the most common reasons, and it's complex of course, but one of the reasons that women often return to domestic violence situations is because the places that they have to go to are just pretty awful and it's very expensive to start a new home from scratch. We'll put a link in our show notes so that you can help Rise Up. And if you need help, please call 000 if it's an emergency, or if you need to talk to someone, there's Lifeline or 1-800-RESPECT. The latest episode of South Park, the animated show that satirises pop culture, is going viral right now, which it does from time to time. It's been going for 25 years, this show. But every time it references a major celebrity, it gets a lot of attention, like the time it did an episode about Tom Cruise being trapped in a closet. Do you remember that?
I do.
And there was the one more recently about Prince Harry writing a memoir called Wah.
He wasn't happy about that.
He wasn't happy about that. This week, it was Lizzo's turn after she was featured in an episode of South Park about weight loss called The End of Obesity. Now, the episode centres around little Eric Cartman's quest to get weight loss drug Ozempic because Eric wanted to lose some weight, and all the obstacles that were created by the lack of funds and the lack of insurance that he has. That's very much the situation in the US. So in response to him complaining that he can't afford it, a doctor tells him, I'm going to write you a prescription for Lizzo. She's a really good singer who talks about body positivity and just being happy with the way you look. I want you to listen to Lizzo 5 times a day and watch her videos just before bedtime. But I'm afraid you'll have to be on Lizzo for the rest of your life. Now, in a pretty boss move, the singer has posted a video of herself reacting to this clip as she watched it for the first time. Here's what she posted.
Guys, my worst fear has been actualized. I've been referenced in a South Park episode.
Which of the drugs are you on, Sharon? Ozempic, Manjaro?
Oh, no, I talked to my doctor. He said insurance would only pay for those if I had diabetes.
But if you can't afford them, then how are you managing your weight?
Don't you know, Sheila? Now there's a whole new obesity drug for those of us who can't afford Ozempic and Manjaro. I've controlled all my cravings to be thinner with Lizzo.
Oh, it's Lizzo.
I've lowered my standards and my expectations.
It's Lizzo. In case studies, 70% of patients on Lizzo no longer cared how much they weighed.
I don't give two shits.
It's Lizzo. Are you living with concerns of obesity?
Ask about the power of not giving a fuck with Lizzo.
I just feel like, damn, I'm really that bitch. I'm really that bitch. I really showed the world how to love yourself and not give a fuck to the point where these men in Colorado know who the fuck I am and put it on their cartoon that's been around for 25 years.
The gist of the episode is one of the characters says, it's a prescription for Lizzo, rich people get Ozempic, poor people get body positivity. Jessie, can you unpack this? Because I'm not sure how I'm meant to feel about it. Is it complimentary to Lizzo or not? She's done the Hope Punk thing and spun it into it being a compliment.
I mean, Lizzo didn't have a choice. If she jumped on there incredibly defensive, I mean, I hope that
She could have ignored it.
she could have ignored it, but people like us and people listening, I think, would be shocked to see the commentary about Lizzo on the internet because I don't wade in there often. I'm very oblivious to it, but I went on and just had a look at Twitter and TikTok and a bunch of things to just get the pulse of how people are reading this. Holy shit, people are awful to Lizzo on the internet. Like it is just all about how she has made fatness this political statement and how she's telling everyone that they should just eat what they want and look how they want and how by normalizing her body she's created a health epidemic basically, which is so factually wrong. Like I don't think Lizzo made her body political. I think we made her body political. I don't think she had a lot of choices. And I think that she might be giving South Park the benefit of the doubt, which I will as well, which is that I think they're satirizing how the culture reads Lizzo, not Lizzo herself. I don't think that they're having a specific jab at Lizzo. I think what they're saying is that in a post-Ozempic world, there are two ways to exist. The first is that you take Ozempic and you look a very specific way. You conform to that. And for all of those who can't, here's body positivity. And body positivity, which is being read by some as let yourself go, eat what you want, health doesn't matter, which is not what body positivity means and isn't in line. I think that they're kind of poking fun at that, which I think is quite actually clever.
It's definitely clever. It's actually pretty sophisticated parody, really. And I think, I don't know about whether or not Lizzo didn't have a choice. Plenty of celebrities have got really pissed off when South Park has poked at them. And some have chosen to roll with it and take it as a compliment and say, well, it means I'm in the zeitgeist. It means I'm an important, relevant celebrity. And really, the people who are trying to be relevant here are South Park after 30 years of the same jokes. And they've always been controversial and they've always been edgy and they've never been what we would term PC, right? So that's always been their shtick. Some celebrities get really upset, like Tom Cruise, as you mentioned. He once threatened to pull out of a movie that the parent company were making. One of the people who used to be on South Park, Isaac Hayes, quit after they made fun of Scientology on there. Like a lot of people get pissed off. Harry and Meghan released a statement saying this is all false and blah, 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 blah. So if you choose to roll with it, then I think that says good things about you. But I think that because this is pretty nuanced commentary, really, from South Park, Lizzo could choose whether to take it as a compliment or not. And she chose to take it as a compliment. I think what you say is so true about how it's easy to underestimate the amount of shit that gets thrown at non-straight-sized women in particular on the internet, and that every decision they're then making, which, you know, there's so much cultural commentary about now, like, oh, are you a traitor now because you did take weight loss drugs and you've shrunk yourself and all those things, has to be put into the blender of where people are making those decisions. Lizzo lives in a world where everything about her body is seen as political, up for grabs, up for debate. And South Park have done that too. But I guess one of the most positive ways you could frame that is to go, well, I'm clearly making a difference and I'm claiming it.
It's interesting because we should note that there are a couple of civil cases that are still going through the legal system in America from some of her former backup dancers who claimed that she discriminated against them because of their size and behaved inappropriately. Putting that aside for a second, I think what this is saying, and this is why she couldn't really get mad about it, she stands for body positivity. She is all about being transgressive and being, just because I'm not straight size doesn't mean I can't wear what I want, portray myself in a sexual way. I don't have to hide myself away. A lot of people have found that very confronting and they haven't liked it. And so she claims, and she says in this stitch, that she wants to be a role model for people to feel good about themselves, regardless of their size. And it's like people can't seem to understand that separately to talking about obesity and health risks and all of that kind of stuff, and how angry people seem to be.
Well, it's like you're allowed to be plus size as long as you hate yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of the message.
And it's a problem that you're fixing.
Yes, exactly. You need to be a work in progress and look at this drug. This drug will fix it. Why aren't you on it? Why aren't you? And that pressure, we're only starting to see the beginnings of that. But we can't behave like these two messages that we're getting for our culture are completely in contradiction. Like they are complete contradictions.
What do you mean?
The messaging of like we have this drug that will make you thin, but also we have this other messaging of body positivity, which is love yourself at any size. Well, I mean,
but hang on, the reasons for taking that drug aren't just because of societal expectations.
No.
They might be for health reasons. In fact, that's what they are for.
But they're flourishing in a fat-phobic society.
They definitely are. What we're all wrestling with is having, and your interview with Johan Hari about this on No Filter was so interesting, Mia, because we can't separate health and weight. Even as you just said, we can't separate health and weight. But if Ozempic and those kind of drugs were being used responsibly, that's exactly what we would be doing, right? You're separating health and weight. And that these medications that have been developed to help solve a problem of health, they haven't been developed to help solve a problem of somebody who wants to fit into their size 8 jeans, right? So in theory, we should be a sophisticated enough, world where we can have those two conversations, and that discussing weight loss injections isn't fat shaming, just like talking about somebody's weight isn't health shaming. You know what I mean? And the thing is that the thing that's ironic about the amount of shit that Lizzo gets online, and lots of people like Lizzo, is she is representative in terms of the fact she's a woman of colour who isn't a size 6, of a way vaster majority of Americans than any of the other people who are poking fun at her and having a bitch about her. So it's not surprising that people love her, but she also triggers a lot of people because you're supposed to hate that. You're supposed to hate yourself. You're supposed to recognize that you're a bad, unhealthy human. And Lizzo refuses to do that. And she has been very open about saying how difficult that is, that her just existing means that she gets all this criticism. And I guess that in this case, at least she's getting criticism, in inverted commas, because it is pointed, that stuff on South Park about lower your standards and eat what you want and all that kind of stuff. It is definitely pointed. The fact that she's choosing to see it as a marker of how important she is in the culture, how else can she get through it, this level of surveillance and visibility and critique?
Why do you think other women's bodies or other people's bodies make us angry? Because skinny shaming is a thing too. And if you read comments under a picture of a particularly thin woman on a red carpet, and I was looking at one over the weekend, and the comments were they were quite aggressive, like eat a sandwich, blah, 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 look at the bony, all those kinds of things. And Lizzo gets the same thing. Why do we find other women's bodies threatening?
Because we know how important it is and how much it matters, and we place such value on our own bodies. So I think that we're projecting. If it's a deep insecurity in your body makes me feel something about my body. And I think that health is just the dog whistle that we use to pretend like there's any validity to what we're saying.
Is health just a code word for beauty standards?
I don't think it is always. Like, I know exactly what you're saying, Jessie, and it's so true that it's been weaponized. But also, there are a lot of issues around obesity. There are health issues. But I don't think that it always is a euphemism. And I don't know how medically people are supposed to unpick that. If every time someone says health, everyone goes, no, it's not about health.
No, I agree with you. I was talking specifically about the internet because when I go onto Twitter, you can't tell me that one of those people, whether it's
But the internet are people.
The internet are people.
So why do people feel so angry?
But
like, why be angry at Lizzo?
They're jumping on there saying that they're concerned about Lizzo's health, and I'm just saying that no, you're not. If you were concerned about Lizzo's health, then you wouldn't be part of a pile-on, which is...
When you say they're concerned, is that what their comments are? Hey, Lizzo, I'm worried about your blood pressure. Or is it
No, they are. They're
abusive?
Saying she can't be healthy, and what she's doing is normalizing
Promoting.
gluttony, which is going to make a whole generation. People don't even care anymore that they're unwell. And I'm like, that is just absolutely not true. What she's about is self-compassion. And if you've done any research into the space of health, self-compassion is one of the most important things. It is hatred of your own body that can make any issues with your health worse and worse. If everyone respected and loved their bodies, then we'd have very different outcomes.
We've been swimming in, women in particular, since as soon as we become aware that our bodies are something to be commented on and looked at, which is probably happens to you as a tween. Your average woman as a tween, you're suddenly like, people will talk about it and be like, oh, hasn't she got a beautiful figure? Or when you start noticing that people are looking at you sexually, when you start comparing yourself to others, all those things, that messaging isn't going away about our bodies. And so it's almost impossible, and this is why it's such a thorny health issue. It's almost impossible for women to talk about health and weight in any way without it being intensely emotional, really shame-ridden, very triggering in lots of ways. And that makes it an even harder issue to unpick because, as Johan Hari said on No Filter, we're also living in a world where there are a lot of forces working against us to want us to eat crap all the time, like sugary, addictive, obesity-creating foods that are cheap and available everywhere you look. Like, it's a very complicated thing. And I think that's what South Park are trying to
And the irony is that we don't know what Lizzo eats. Lizzo's not on the internet every day saying what she eats, so any projection we have about her health or diet is wrong.
And a dancer and a woman who can sustain world tours. She is great. You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. I applaud the fact that she decided to take it on and hold it close, even though I'm sure it hurt at the same time.
Oh.
Mamamia out loud.
Bitch.
Friends, the news cycle is bloody awful. I reckon you've probably noticed. But look, I reckon it's important that I tell you what your creepy habit is based on your star sign. That is what I would like to talk about today.
That seems important.
This week, Bustle published an article informed by the insights of astrologer Stina Garbus, which unpacked each sign's weirdest quality.
Does anyone believe in star signs? I do.
Absolutely not.
Thought I'd answer my own question.
I'm on the fence. I kind of do and I kind of don't. You know what I mean? Like, I like to generalise broadly about people based on their star signs, but I'm not like reading my horoscope every day to decide what I should do.
You don't really believe that what your horoscope says is going to come true, do you?
No. I don't mean that part of star signs. I just believe that there are some general characteristics that are common to star signs. I don't believe like this is what's going to happen to you this week. I don't read my star signs.
I notice it's on the rise. Like, again, because, you know, back in the day when I worked at women's magazines and things, star signs were it. Right,
Huge.
The horoscopes page was a big deal.
It's fun.
The best sex position for your star sign, I think we did.
We had one
Cosmo.
astrologer at OK who everybody loved, and I got a friend of mine, like a personal reading with her for her birthday once, and she lost her mind. Like, and I've noticed that the young people, I'm hearing them talk about astrology a lot again. I feel like
getting
it's
your colours done.
Yeah, I feel like it's back on the rise.
I feel like it's about lack of control. And you just,
definitely.
I'm
I'm looking
going on
for
there.
answers in a complicated world. Anyway,
Mia,
do tell.
You're a Libra?
I am.
You know how I found that out is I Googled your birthday. I forgot what it was. And then I said, what is that star sign? It told me it's a Libra. Anyway.
What a Libra is supposed to be like? Emotional. Is that correct?
Crazy.
I like to play this game where it's like things I know about particular star signs.
Do you know, I know more about other people's star signs than I do about my own. We like balance. That's the joke, right? So we're trying to be balanced.
Libras are?
Yeah, because it's the scales.
Isn't that
our sign is the scales?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so you're a Libra.
You hate balance.
And before I read this article on Bustle, I didn't believe in star signs. And then I read what your creepiest habit is.
What is it?
And I went, I think I believe in star signs. Libra, this is very specific and it's unlike every single other one.
Okay.
True, I read it. She's going to get upset.
Oh, I think I read it and I thought that's awful and now I've forgotten what it is.
Libra tends to copy others' ideas without even realising it. They might steal your style, copy your haircut.
I'm a plagiarist.
Or share your ideas at work as if they're their own.
Oh, no, that's totally me.
And then it says, because they're such a sociable air sign, it's easy for them to laugh it off if they get caught. And just like that, they'll win everyone over again. But there's often one or two friends or co-workers, Holly and I, who see what's really going on and they don't like it one bit.
That is so weird.
More
She's
the
like,
haircut.
It's quite targeted,
no,
isn't
as
it?
in the thing of like, you will go, what are those socks? And you'll have your phone out and you will have bought them. And then the next day you come dressed as one of the other people in the office.
Do you think people get upset about that maybe?
I like the idea that they do.
Yeah, I do
That's fun.
too.
That's a bit of fun.
I think some people are a bit like, this was my look.
I'm very porous. So
Yes.
I'm very like I'll imprint on people. I'll imprint like I'll be like I want to take all those things. Oh, that is very accurate.
That's weird.
Like I'll see something and I'll be like, I wish I'd done that. Maybe I will do that.
No idea is original. All ideas are mine.
Exactly.
Before you know it, her hair's pink. It's all of those.
But that's why I always say I'm not like one of those early adopters or first people. Like I'm towards the front of the sheep, but I'm very much a sheep.
You do always say that.
Yeah.
You never claim to have an
No, see, and that's the
original
thing
idea.
about I'm trying to make it funny, and so people like get away with it, and actual fact, it's just creepy.
I don't see you claiming anyone's ideas as your own, but I do see you copycatting people's style, haircuts, clothes,
All the time.
bags, shoes. Actually,
Opinions.
she bought my bag the other day and she didn't even know.
And that was an accident.
Yeah. That's the second time in a row.
That was
Yeah.
embarrassing.
Holly, you're a Sagittarius.
So are you.
Yes. Yes. That's irrelevant. A Sagittarius apparently has no rules. They'll sleep in their car for no reason or jump on the back of a motorbike with a stranger.
I'm so wild.
They make odd choices because they're driven by a need for adventure.
This is neither of you.
I know. I think it could be a bit Holly, actually.
Not really.
I think she can do weird stuff. Like when she gets bored in life, she does things like move to Australia from Manchester. You know? Like
Well,
she's a
that's
bit
just
impulsive.
sensible. No, she's not impulsive. I
She's
think
a bit
that
adventurous.
would be me. Holly is quite adventurous, actually. You're not adventurous.
No, not at all.
Yeah, no.
You're the
I am-
opposite of adventurous. I don't think it's accurate for you.
No, it's because star signs are bullshit.
But you like rules. Maybe that's because you are in fear of your own chaotic nature.
I'm trying to keep it suppressed.
I don't like rules. But
Yeah.
I think I'm more of a rebel than I am, as discussed the other week when I was like, don't tell me what I'm having for dinner on Tuesday night, even though I'm definitely having tacos.
Oh, that's true, actually. You do have no rules. You are
She
quite
rebels.
rebellious. Let's whiz through. I've now got them in front of me.
I've got the other ones too. I've got them and then
Okay.
I have
This one I
celebrities.
find really interesting. Taurus is a total stalker when it comes to other people's houses. They'll peek in your windows when they pass by at night, but only because they want to see your decor.
That's really specific.
That's me. I think I'm a tortured
They might
Taurus.
even show up at an open house to do a casual walkthrough.
Have
even
done
though
that.
They have no intention
Have
of
done
buying,
that.
so they're nosy.
Aries, true crime fans, can rattle off the name of every serial killer. Hard relate.
Gemini, can't stop yourselves from digging up dirt on social media. At
That's
any
me.
given time, you can bet thousands of Geminis are 15 scrolls deep in someone's Instagram.
Brent's a Gemini and he wouldn't even know where to begin with that. So
Oh,
I don't think that would happen.
A Cancer will look through your phone if you leave it out. They have no sense of privacy.
Capricorn has the weirdest dreams. Many times they'll wake up, text the dream to the group chat and accidentally ruin everyone's day.
You and I are on the cusp of Capricorn, Jessie, because we're both at the very end of Sagittarius. And so we might also do that.
Leo, which is J-Lo and Ben Affleck.
Which
just saying.
everybody says that's the fatal flaw in their relationship, that they're both Leos.
You know why? And this is revealed in the Bustle article. They both like to be the centre of attention, which means that they're both gossips. They can't help it. And they will risk a friendship for a laugh at brunch. So
That's
they'll
my
just tell
husband,
stories.
and can you think of anything that's less Jason?
Is he a Leo?
Yes, he
It's
doesn't
all
want to
right.
be the centre of attention.
Star signs are bullshit because Jason is not a Leo.
Pisces, if you leave a Pisces alone in your house, be warned that they will go through your stuff.
I would probably do that.
So don't ask them to house sit. They
Sleep in
won't
your
just
bed.
take out the trash or bring in the mail. They'll sleep in your bed, try on your clothes.
Oh, wow.
A Virgo has weird internet search history, and Scorpio loves horror movies and anything paranormal, which, again, I very much relate to.
Scorpios are scary.
What's
No offense, Scorpios, but you're scary. Oh, Em's a Scorpio. No way, are you?
Oh,
Producer Em, the Scorpio. Scorpios are passionate, deep, and a little bit terrifying.
Aquarius was my favourite. I worked out that Jen Aniston and Kelly Rowland are both Aquarius. They don't mind stealing something small from the grocery store, which I feel like is defamation.
I feel like it's a long time since Jen Aniston did that.
Aquarius
Or
look
maybe
for
not.
little ways to be rebellious throughout the day. They might write on the wall in the bathroom, steal from the
There we
grocery
go.
store, or scratch their initials on a table.
So if there's graffiti in the office, we just have to look up the birthdays and get all the Aquarius in a meeting room together. Love. Do you actually...
What's Luca?
They'd also put their handprint in wet cement just to leave a little trace of themselves behind, especially when they've been drinking. That's very specific.
What's Luca?
Me, what's Luca?
He's a Virgo.
Actually, that doesn't surprise me that he's a Virgo.
What's his weird habit?
Weird internet search history. That kind of adds up.
Because I think of Virgos as being perfectionist, diligent,
Yeah.
you know,
Very controlled.
organised. Have you really got any creepy habits, like star sign related or not?
So I reflected on my creepiest habits. I have two that stick out. The first is quite seriously eavesdropping on people's conversations, but in like a way that probably borders on weird.
But can I ask you about that? Because I always eavesdrop on strangers' conversations.
Yep.
I actually get pathologically uncomfortable overhearing conversations I'm not supposed to overhear, like in real life. You know what I mean? Like
As in ones about you?
Like if you and Mia were bitching about
on the
me
internet lately?
in Mia's office, exactly, then I would remove myself.
too.
I
Oh,
would
me
not
too.
hang around
Yeah.
to listen
Oh,
to that.
no.
Like, you know how sometimes you might get dialed into a call by mistake
Yeah.
or something
Yeah.
like that, or you're on a group chat on Zoom.
Yeah.
Like I get very uncomfortable and I pull out.
Yeah.
But I love listening to what strangers in the cafe are talking
Yes,
about.
same. Like I like to invest myself in their gossip about their friends. So I'm very interested in that. And the other thing is, like, I know there was a joke there about social media sleuthing, but I can find out anything on the internet.
You are very good at
I
that.
fell into a social media hole on Saturday night, and at 1 a.m. I was sending links to people. Like, I can go so deep, so yuck. Like, I feel very dirty afterwards, but it's 100% creepy. If I accidentally liked something there, then it would potentially ruin my whole life. Mia, do you have a creepy habit?
I've got so many.
Yeah, I know,
Do
right?
you?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I have creepy habits. I must have creepy habits.
I know. When you and Luca first got together, I used to like watching you like in public, like from afar. Like I'd take
So
photos
creepy.
of you guys when you didn't know that I was looking at you.
No.
That is creepy.
Really?
I don't mean like having sex. That would be fucking creepy. But I'll send you one. I would just like taking photos
Like
of
a
you.
paparazzi.
Yeah, like a paparazzi.
Yeah.
Like a paparazzi.
I do like looking in people's windows.
I like capturing those things.
Me too.
Taylor Swift's written a song about that.
I used
I
to
look in
have a
people's
friend
windows.
who lived in this apartment block in the city, and you could sit in their window and see into all these other apartment block windows in the city. It was better than TV. It was better than anything. I love that. And I'm not necessarily expecting them to be doing anything very exciting, but other people's mundane shit is quite like,
Well, you know, when I interviewed Patrick Gagney for No Filter, the sociopath, that's what she did
Break
from
into
when she was really young.
people's
She would
houses.
break into people's houses and she would just hang out. And I was like, well, would you like vandalize them? Would you steal things? She goes, oh, no. I was very respectful. I said, did you ever get caught? And she said, one time the people were coming in and she just timed it badly. And she said she just left, but she left with an air of confidence, like because she's this beautiful blonde white woman. And because it was just so incongruous and she wasn't looking furtive or anything, she just kind of brushed past them and left their house.
I would really like, I always think this, that I would like to spend my weekends going to open homes for like mansions. Like I just love the idea.
Nosying around.
Like how many rooms do you have, and like what's your furniture set up, and how big's your pool? Like I would just like to know
I used to
What-
look in people's fridges when I would go to open for inspections.
And when I was a teenager and I used to babysit, I always used to nosy through the fridges and the bathroom cabinets.
Bathroom cabinets,
I didn't
definitely.
steal things. I just wanted, I would eat some of the fridge stuff, actually. But like, I wouldn't steal things, but I just wanted to know. Other people's lives are fascinating.
Outlouders, tell us your creepy habits. Don't be ashamed. There's no judgment here.
Unless it's criminal, then be
Yes,
ashamed.
like Patrick breaking into houses. We need to be on the record as not condoning that.
Every Tuesday and Thursday, we drop new segments of Mamamia Out Loud just for Mamamia subscribers. Follow the link in the show notes to get your daily dose of Out Loud, and a big thank you to everyone who is already subscribed.
What is middle class, and is it Cate Blanchett? If that's a question you didn't see coming, then you haven't been paying attention to a little stoush that blew up in Cannes last week, where the film festival's been going on, and Australia's very own HRH, Cate Blanchett, was trying to make an eloquent point about the work she does with refugee communities, and instead sparked one about what makes you middle class in 2024. Here's what she said.
Look, I mean, I'm white, I'm privileged, I'm middle class, and I think, one can be accused of having a bit of a white saviour complex. But to be perfectly honest, my interaction with refugees in the field and also in resettled environments has totally changed my perspective on the world, and I am utterly grateful for that.
So as I say, she was trying to be self-aware and make a point, and all anyone yelled was, Cate Blanchett, you are not middle class. You are worth, apparently, according to the internet, we don't know. It's always nonsense when you look up how much celebrities are worth, but let's just take this number with a large pinch of fancy pink rock salt. She is worth around 95 million US, so around 140 million AU, according to the internet. Now, that isn't the middle of anything, obviously, and some people got very upset about it. And they were like, celebrities, they're just like us, except middle class is having 95 million in the bank, etc., etc. Now, look, we're not in the business of joining any social media pylons, but what the reaction to Blanchett's quote tells us, and that reaction's all over the world, not in Australia, but everywhere, and in Australia, told us that nothing pisses people off more than a rich person who won't own their richness. But was that what Blanchett was doing? Jessie, what does middle class mean in 2024?
This is the problem with saying anything when everything is global, and then it goes on TikTok and it reaches a US, British, Australian audience where class systems all mean very, very different things. In the US, middle class has a very specific meaning, which is about how much money you have in the bank. And I think like 60% of the US are considered middle class, and then you've got the working class, and then you've got the upper class, which is, celebrities and billionaires in their beautiful mansions. In Britain, it's very different because it's all about inherited wealth and, aristocracy, and there's kind of a more historical. It's very Bridgerton. If you don't wear a bonnet, you're not upper class.
I have a PhD in class, obviously, being British. It's all we ever think about. In Britain, middle class is quite posh. So that's the other thing you've got to notice here. So in
What are you?
I was raised middle class. My parents, though, were born working class. The agility of class is illustrated to a point by them because they were the first in their families to go to university and they got jobs in education. So that would make them middle class. Middle class people work in education.
But middle class means what? That you've got a university degree?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, not necessarily, and not only.
You and I are in trouble.
But it's not that easy. This is what none of you do. Like, it's, as I say, in Britain, it's very complicated. But like
Victoria Beckham saying I was working class.
Yes, but she had money, but she was from a working class background. But so the reason this is confusing too is I think what Cate Blanchett was trying to say is that she is quite posh. She was saying, I'm white, I'm middle class, I am quite posh. So I know you might be accusing me of being a white saviour. But what a lot of people heard was that she was claiming not to be posh and that she was one of the people.
Yes. So when she said middle class, she wasn't setting up a GoFundMe saying, I'm middle class and I need you to donate.
That's what's so exhausting about the internet when everyone just wants to take the worst possible interpretation of everything that's being said, because she was being self-deprecating. And of course, Sky News and everyone's all about, she's got class dysphoria. Like she thinks she's one class, but she was actually born another class. I have a question about class. Are you the class that you were born, or the class that you are now?
I reckon this is an important point because
Jessie from the block.
Cate Blanchett, she's made her money, right? Like she definitely didn't come from a working class family. She grew up in Melbourne.
Can we talk about maybe Kyle and Jackie O? They might be better examples of this.
So they were on the radio this morning talking about this topic. And look, they have lots of money in the bank.
So much.
But they were both saying, Kate just used the word utterly. People from the middle class don't use the word utterly. That's the upper class. So for them, the markers of class are about how you speak, how you dress, how you sit, how you stand.
What class would they consider themselves?
Well, it's funny because I think that they have held on to their status as working class, and I think that's part of their appeal. It's because
100%.
both of them are completely self-made. And in Australia, that's, a lot of their audience as well.
I think they have, maybe not Kyle, but Jackie, when I interviewed her for No Filter, I think she's got some class dysphoria because she knows objectively that she's got lots and lots of money, but she still feels very working class. Her mentality is still very working class. That's how she grew up. She got money late in life. She wasn't born into it. So her view, even though we didn't talk about it specifically, she talked about why she was uncomfortable about talking about money because it doesn't feel like who she is.
Yeah, and I think that there's something particularly in Australia around privilege. I mean, what would we have wanted Cate Blanchett to say? Upper class or elite? Because elite
I just
also
think you can say privileged. We're not policing what Kate did or didn't say.
But those terms, we have a real contempt towards the rich in Australia. Like we do, and it's founded.
And we have a real contempt towards the poor as well.
Yes, but I'm talking about figures of power, talking about money at all, like people talk about tall poppy syndrome and all of that. We have more contempt towards the rich in Australia than they do in the US. There's much more of an American dream, like you go girl kind of perspective there. So I think that talking about class at all was not going to go particularly well for Cate Blanchett.
See, class isn't about money. Like it is a little bit about money, but it's not really about money. This is why Kyle, as an example, he's a working class hero, right? But also, and it's difficult to talk about because it always sounds like you're criticizing someone, right? But class is also about what you choose to do with your money, how you choose to spend it, and what signifiers of wealth are important to you. So in Britain, which has a very complicated situation, right? But you can be very posh and actually have no money. You can have a title, an aristocratic title, but be skint, right? So you could be at the very top of the tree and very upper class, but not actually be rich. And conversely, you can be Victoria Beckham's dad dropping your kid off to school in a Rolls Royce and be working class. And the mobility will come from other class signifiers than your money. Like, so in Britain, you can tell someone's class the minute they open their mouth. We are obsessed with it. It is not a good thing, right? So if someone comes from a regional area that would traditionally have a strong accent, but they don't speak with that accent, they're posh. They went to a posh school. They did not mix with ordinary hoi polloi people. So that's an immediate signifier. The way you talk, where you live, what's your house like? Like, do you have shelves and shelves of books, and do you drink like Nicaraguan coffee, and are you wine or beer, or like all these things are the signifiers of your wealth more so than in your bank account. And I think that we're kidding ourselves. Like Cate Blanchett, when she says she's middle class, I understood exactly what she meant. She meant that she was comfortable, that she was probably from a sort of slightly progressive-y
because she was
background.
comparing herself to refugees.
Yeah, but she wasn't saying, I earn the median wage, because that's not what class is. And I think in Australia we like to say that we're much less class obsessed, but that's not true, because in big cities like Sydney, it still is about your school you went to, what area you live in, what do you do with your money when you get it? Do you build yourself a massive flashy mansion, or do you live in a sandstone home? And it's about a lot more, and I think we kid ourselves that we don't. So it's kind of funny that we get so upset about it.
There's a theory about class, which is that none of us actually have any sense of the class system as it exists. We can only see the class directly above and directly below us. And that's why there are certain instances in our lives where, our minds are just blown. So I actually understand some of the critique of if Cate Blanchett thinks she's middle class, she's not, because there is an issue with everyone thinking they're middle class and no one identifying as upper class. No one identifies as the top end, whereas obviously that top end exists.
How much of a tool would you sound if you said, I'm
definitely,
upper class?
Definitely.
But also, I don't think it's even about that. You could be loaded and living in the right part in inverted commas of Sydney, and other people could still look down on you for not speaking correctly, eating the right things, wearing the right shoes. Like, class is not about money.
There was a great...
It is about money, but it's not all about money.
A great comment.
Which is why the mobility thing is interesting. I remember you've talked about this, is that if you grew up without money and then you get a few good jobs and you get some money in the bank, have you successfully climbed a class ladder? No, you've successfully climbed a financial ladder. The decisions you make then will determine whether or not you've actually moved a class ladder.
And you feel defensive when people then try and put you in another class because you're going, no, that's not where I came. You're using that to dismiss me or undermine me. Like I still very much am like what school I went to and what suburb I grew up in. Like that determines my, like let's not pretend like Australia, like the most common asked question isn't what school you went to and that isn't a loaded question because I'm trying to work out where to place you.
Exactly.
There was a comment that said your class in Australia is determined by whether or not your school wore a hat. And I was like,
it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
100%. It's also interesting because it tells you something about the state of our world, right? Is that when I was growing up, teachers, that's definitely a middle-class job. But these days, it's not seen as such. And certainly not in America it wouldn't be, and not in Australia increasingly. It's seen as much more of a working-class job, which is interesting too. Our values shift. It's really interesting.
If you want to hear more about Cate Blanchett and this chat and how it fits into the celebrity stories of the day, then listen to today's episode of The Spill. We will link to it in the show notes.
I went to see a new therapist last week. I've started therapy again, and we had a conversation in an episode about therapy because I quit until recently when I just started seeing my new therapist. And Holly's just started for the first time. I've seen so many therapists. Here's a little sneak peek about our conversation. You won't even hear, Jessie.
No, I'm really interested in why Holly's seeing a therapist. This sounds really pervy.
If you're going to relive really difficult things, it can leave you with a hangover. They're logging off. This is like sessions over there going on. And you're sitting there going, the worst thing that ever happened to me is now all over the floor.
Yes.
And I'm scared of that.
Yes, I totally understand that.
And
I totally understand that.
Why would I do that to myself?
I completely get that. And that's something worth telling the therapist about. We'll have to do another episode with you about therapy when I can tell you about my new therapist.
I'm really excited.
Who I've discovered is actually a life coach, not a licensed therapist, which I don't know how I feel about that. Anyway, there's a link to that episode in the show notes.
Thank you for listening to us on Mamamia Out Loud on this Monday.
I was on a panel recently with someone who does a podcast, and they said when they were introducing this person how many downloads their podcast had.
Oh, yeah.
And I came back to work that Monday and I said, bitches, how many downloads have we had? I want to start saying it at the beginning of my bio every time. So we looked it up. And apparently we've had more than 101 million downloads. And I'm going to start wearing that on a badge, on my T-shirt.
Woot. Today's episode was produced by Emeline Gazilas. The assistant producer is Tahli Blackman, with audio production by Leah Porges.
And also thanks to our wonderful new brand manager, who you might have heard and seen in the Out Louders Facebook group. Her name is Kerry Scott Jackson. She's doing all kinds of things. So go say g'day in the Out Louders group to her.
Shout out to any Mamamia subscribers listening. If you love the show and you want to support us, subscribing to Mamamia is the very best way to do so. There's a link in the episode description.